right, neighbors, enough about real estate. Let's get to grilling. Hey neighbors, we're going kind of a different route today. My daughter Avery's gone vegan. I know. The Cribs and Ribs guy has a vegan daughter. So today, for my daughter Avery, I'm going to show you how to make some salt roasted beets. Now beetroots are kind of a superfood. They're nice and high in fiber, but they're great for the blood. It can help you manage diabetes, can help you with weight loss. It's great for the kidneys, for the heart. Really a fantastic food. And if you stick around afterwards, I'm going to show you a great way to enjoy the greens as well. But neighbors, before we get started, I got to tell you, I just had a listing in my neighborhood on Pink Desert that went under contract in 2 days. We got 35,000 over list with no appraisal. If you've had any thoughts of selling, please give me a call, send me a text. I'd love to chat with you about that soon. But for now, let's get back to these beets. So I've got the golden beets. We've got 3 medium-sized beets here. What you're gonna need to prepare these beets is a little bit of olive oil, some nice kosher salt. You're gonna wrap them in some aluminum foil and bake them on 350. These medium beets, I'm thinking these will probably take about 45 minutes before I start testing those. But this is what we do. Get you a nice sharp knife, make your whole job easier. Okay, so these beets are pretty dirty. First thing we're gonna do here is just slice the stems off. You can leave a lot of that stem on there, but slice most of it off. And then those roots, we're gonna go ahead and knock those off as well. So now we just scrub them down in the sink. I like to use a nice clean Scotch-Brite pad. Okay, so you can see I scrubbed the dirt off of these things here. We're gonna toss these in a bowl. Oh, and by the way, before you get too far into this, there'll be a couple things that you're gonna wanna make sure you have on hand for the marinade. You're gonna use a little orange juice. Doesn't have to be the expensive fresh squeezed stuff. Today we're gonna be Donald Ducking it. And then also some balsamic. I've got a golden balsamic for these golden beets, but if you're cooking red beets, feel free to use, a regular balsamic. So back to the beets. So we're salt roasting these. We're gonna cover these with a little bit of olive oil. Just enough to coat the beets. And plenty of kosher salt. And by covering these in kosher salt, as these roast, the beets are gonna pick up a lot of that salt, give them some flavor, and then also you won't have to salt your dressing so heavy. Just kind of mix that around and make sure you get a nice coating on those beets. If the salt forms a paste, that's fine. Make sure all those beets are coated in salt. Okay. If you gotta sprinkle a little more on there, so be it. Kosher salt's not very expensive, so don't be afraid to be liberal on that. All right. Again, if that salt forms a paste, that's fine with me. Just go ahead and smear it on there. So as you can see, we've got a nice coating of salt. Again, it's all right. Just go ahead and get it all on there. Even do one last sprinkle for good measure. We're just gonna wrap each one of these in a little bit of aluminum foil. And you can't have too much salt, everybody. Most of that salt's gonna come right back off of there anyways. But we want those beets to have the opportunity to, absorb as much of that salt as they can during the roasting process. They're not gonna roast for that long, so again, you can't oversalt these. By the way, I've got my oven preheated to 350 already. Okay, this is the bigger one there. This same method will work for baby beets. If you get those, you can wrap those together, like maybe 3 beets at a time. If you've got the little small ones, you'll reduce the cooking time or the temperature a little bit on that so that you don't overcook those. If you end up with the really big beets, those will probably roast for about 70 minutes, depending on the size. But again, these I'm gonna start checking after about 45 minutes. Just gonna pop these in the oven on the middle rack. Okay, so these beets have been going for about 45 minutes. Let's take a look and see how they're doing. So to check these, we don't exactly need to temp them. Just get your nice oven mitt there and see if they feel a little softer than what they did when you first put them in. These are a tiny bit softer, but they're not ready just yet. I'm gonna give them about 10 minutes longer. Basically, you should be able to squeeze them just a little bit, but they shouldn't be too terribly soft. Okay, so now the beets have actually been going about 65 minutes. And I'm giving them a good hard squeeze here. I can feel my fingertips going in just the teensiest bit. They're still pretty hard. You can see some of the sugars and juices have leaked out of the beets. They're looking about right. We're gonna leave that sitting here to rest in the tin foil for a couple hours. I'm gonna go run some errands and come back, and those will be softened up to about the perfect amount. Okay, so these beets have been resting for a couple of hours. They're nice and cool. I can feel that they've kind of pulled back from the foil on the inside. They feel just about right. Again, when you pull these out of the oven, you should just be able to put your fingertips into them a little bit. Okay, so here's what they look like all roasted. You can either pull this skin off with a knife, or sometimes if you get lucky, that skin will just slough right off for you there. That stump I'm gonna cut off. That looks unpleasant. You can eat it if you like, but I'm not gonna put that in with the rest of my beets. But as you can see, that pulls right off. I'll get you close up here on the next one. Okay, you can see some of that salt still on there. Comes right off. A lot of that salt got absorbed into the beets though, and that really is gonna set the tone for the flavor on these beets, you know. And if you didn't salt these when you roasted them, you know, you could get the texture right and everything. But if you didn't salt them when you roasted them like that, you'd have to, you know, salt them quite a bit after the fact. You know, and I kind of like doing it beforehand. I think it improves, you know, keeps the texture nice and clean. I don't have to put as much salt in my dressing. You can add these to the top of pretty much any salad. I'll show you what I would serve it with after I get these ready to go here. Sometimes you get lucky and these just come off super easy. This isn't one of those times, but it could be worse. But yeah, just get that skin off of there best you can without cutting too much into the beets. If it's got any of those little ugly brown spots, those should just come right off, or any of those little hairy spots. The rest of that's going to come right off in the sink there. Okay. So pretty much that's detached. Let's go ahead and wash these off in the sink. All right, these are cooked right. These should just slice very easily. Right like that. You don't have to push too hard, but again, you don't want it to be too soft. So I'll cut it in half, maybe cut it into some wedges here, depending on the size of the beet, or maybe a couple bites per piece. That's about right there. Cut it any way you like. But you want kind of larger bite-sized pieces. But look at that, isn't that pretty? Nice golden color there. The marinade for this is very simple. Again, we salted those beets before we cooked them, so we don't have to add a bunch of seasoning or anything to this, which is good because, you know, if you add that to a marinade, a lot of that will generally float to the top, and that's fine and all, but it just isn't pretty. You know me, I like to make it look pretty. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna add a little bit of vinegar, a little bit of orange juice. This is a golden balsamic vinegar. I like this one because it's not too aggressive. It's got a nice tangy sort of a flavor. It really adds some brightness without having to get, you know, too rowdy with the beets there. But I drizzle a little bit over the top. Then you're just gonna top it off until those beets are almost covered. You can see I've got the beets almost covered with that orange juice. I'm gonna put a lid on this and let it rest for at least a half an hour before I start to serve these, but these can keep in your fridge for up to a week anyways. With these golden beets, this orange juice and golden balsamic keeps that color nice and pure, but if you do orange juice and regular balsamic for red beets, that's perfect. All right, let's give it a taste. I love beets. It's got a natural sweetness because there is some natural sugars inside the beets. It's got that earthy sort of a flavor to it as well. And these golden beets just have a nice bright flavor to it. That salt roast really does give it a nice salty flavor to begin with. By the time we put these on our salad, it's gonna be perfect. Put it on whatever salad you like. But after we let this rest for a little bit, I'm gonna show you how I would serve it. These beets will be great on any salad. This is how I'm gonna go ahead and do it. So I'm gonna start out with a little bit of fresh arugula here. It's nice and peppery, a little bit grassy. It'll really go with these nice earthy beets here. And we'll top these off with some of these beets here. Throw one more in there, 3 times the charm, we'll say. Okay, from there we're gonna do a little bit of olive oil. Now if you've got a nice extra virgin olive oil, that'd be the one to use. Use whichever olive oil you like. But right here, this was a gift that my niece gave to me. This is a black truffle oil. I'm gonna go ahead and put some of this on top here. And truffle, if you haven't had truffle before, I love it. It goes real well with earthy foods, like mushrooms and truffle are great pairing. And beets and truffles will be pretty good here too. So we're gonna do a little bit of that truffle oil, all right? We're gonna top it off with a nice little mixture here of walnuts, raisins, and craisins. Put a little more in there. And we're gonna do a little bit of coarse sea salt on top. And kind of sticking with the black truffle theme, I've got a black truffle sea salt here from Private Select that I got over there at Smith's. All right, we'll do just a sprinkle of that on top. All right, and there you go. I hope my daughter Avery likes this. I'll be preparing this for her when she gets home a little bit later on. Now, if you're not vegan, like I am not, let me show you what to put this salad over the top. All right, this is Mount Tam, everybody. This is a triple cream organic cow's milk cheese. This comes from California, and this has got a kind of a bloomy rind. Any sort of a bloomy rind cheese that's got a little bit of a smell to it, that'll go real great with these beets. And that is ready to go. All right, let's try this beet salad and see how this turned out. Get some nice roasted beets in there with that Mount Tam. Get some walnuts in there for texture. This is an excellent salad. The chewiness of the raisins and the craisins, a nice roasted beet flavor, the creaminess of the Mount Tam cheese. Oh, this is really a perfect combination here. The arugula is a great bed to pull this off. You should definitely try this, everybody. Tastes like the kind of salad you would start out with at a nice steakhouse. Even without the cheese, there's really a wonderful combination of texture and flavor in this dish. But that nice triple cream cheese really sets it over the top. You're gonna have to take my word for it, Dave. This is actually a perfect salad. There's no textures or missing components from the flavor profile. It's really perfect. Cribs and ribs. Everybody, if you like this video and you'd like to see more content like that, don't hesitate to subscribe. Give me that thumbs up, maybe leave a little comment. And we'll see you next time, everybody. Wait, the video's not over yet. We got a little bonus content. Let's take a look at what we could do with those beet greens. So we're just gonna do a simple saute on these beet greens. You're gonna mince you up a nice little clove of garlic, 2 small ones if you have to, all right? And then take the beet greens and you're just gonna cut these thick stems off. You can put them all together if you like. But you know, we're just cutting those stems off right at the bulky part there. And then we're gonna rinse these off real good. Meanwhile, got a pan on the stove getting nice and hot. Okay, let's give these a rinse. Okay, this next part here is the fun part. We're gonna go ahead and just pan saute these. I've got this pan sitting here, it's nice and hot. Got it on a level 7.5, it looks like. Get you a nice wooden spoon. Don't use plastic for this stuff, everybody. You don't want your food to taste like plastic. You know, I'm actually gonna turn this down just a little bit because the first thing we're gonna do is toast that garlic. So I'm gonna get that down to about a 6. Let's hit that pan with a little olive oil. Now to get that olive oil nice and hot without burning it, what I like to do is pick it up off of the heat, hold it above the heat there, you know, and just kind of make sure that pan's nice and coated with that nice hot olive oil. At this point, I'm going to add in my garlic. And as that starts to brown, you'll notice that it starts to pick up some fragrance there. That's definitely what you're looking for. And this part's real simple, everybody. All right, once you see that starting to toast like so, go ahead and toss in your beet greens. We're gonna wanna hit it with a little bit of salt and pepper. All right, that salt will help kind of take some of the water out of the greens there. And just kind of saute them down. Now keep in mind, when you think these are done, and you take them off the heat, that pan's still hot, so they're gonna keep going for a little bit. And these greens, they're not super thick, obviously, so they're gonna keep cooking. Okay, at this point, you can see the olive oil has kind of coated the greens and that pan's kind of getting dry. The pan's getting dry, the garlic's getting dry. All right, those greens are cooking. Okay, now you can see these are getting pretty wilted. So at this point, got a little bit of cooking wine here. I'm gonna hit the pan with a touch of cooking wine. Not too much. If you don't have any cooking wine, feel free to use some lemon juice or maybe just a splash of a nice white vinegar. All you're trying to do is get a little bit of acid and brightness into this dish. And all right, I can smell that wine cooking off. Again, I'm just barely over medium on the heat here. looking nice. And again, this is all vegan right here from my beautiful, sweet Princess Avery. You want to make sure you cook off all that alcohol. And you can kind of smell that garlic coming back through. That's how I know that wine has all been cooked off. I'm going to go ahead and turn the heat off and get that onto a plate so it quits cooking. All right, we want these to stop cooking in that hot pan, so we'll get these onto a plate right away. All right, from here you'll give it a little taste test. Add a little more black pepper or salt if you like. You can even give it a little splash of vinegar, a little apple cider vinegar on there would be nice, or even maybe a touch of balsamic. The way I like to finish mine up is just with a little touch of that white balsamic. Oh, I think I might have just put a little too much on there, but it shouldn't be too big of a deal. All right, and let's see how these beet greens taste. Let me mix in that balsamic. Again, I think I might have hit that a little too hard. Just a few drops would be enough, but it should be fine. All right. These are full of flavor. If you like greens and you've never had beet greens, you really ought to try these. They really hold up to the saute process very well. That garlic complements the greens. Very healthy. Don't throw those away, everybody. These are delicious. Till next time, everybody. And again, just on this last deal done over here on Pink Desert, I had to turn away 6 qualified buyers, some well over list. If you've had any thoughts of selling in the near future, please give me a call. I'd love to take a few minutes and show you how I can help you win in today's market. Take care.